Sound is anticipation. Like in movement is creating tension and release. And like in a composition, we're controlling pauses and notes. The machine waits to speak. Each cable is a decision, is a turning point. We don't control it, we negotiate with it. It's like a crossroad. Now we are in the age of presets, in the age of instant gratification. We are facing the perfection, where everything is optimized, compressed, tuned, perfected. Perfection has become the default. Mistakes are often erased before they can even be heard. Noise is filtered out, timing is quantized, and emotion is often left behind. But there's resistance. There's a cult of imperfection. There's the ritual of chasing flow. What makes us chase imperfection? It's not that we love mistakes, it's that mistakes feel alive. We chase the flow, not to fix it, but to understand it, to find a human pulse inside the machine. Because the ritual of imperfection isn't about failure, it's about presence. It's about reminding ourselves that sound is alive and so are we. Noise isn't just interference, it's a sign that something real is happening. When we patch, we're not chasing perfection. We're chasing the moment when the system surprises us, like a feedback we didn't expect, a broken oscillation. That's where the music is born. The love of imperfection isn't a pose, it's a choice. Because in noise there's truth, and in truth there's heart. Let's break down this patch. This patch is pretty complex and is called Natura Viva. As you can see, we have multiple sources and multiple random stages and clock dividers. The most interesting aspect of this patch is the way it uses quantized and stored random voltages, and also the DRG, which are digital random gates. Everything is provided in my system by 149.1 and 149.2 from Dofer. All these random inputs are actually connected to the same clock and clock divider, and as you can see I use a very low division, which is divided by 12, and then I send that output to the SRV input, storage random voltages, which is equal and probabilistic distribution. But the interesting part is that the equal distribution is also modulating the clock itself. In this section of the patch, there's a feedback loop between the clock and stored random voltages. The clock and the clock divider send triggers to the stored random voltages, so every hit gives a new random value. Those random voltages then go back and change the speed of the clock, so the rhythm keeps speeding up and slowing down. This actually is a chaotic modulation. The same feedback loop also drives the QRV section, quantized random voltages, which turns those random voltages into random volt per octave values for the oscillators, both with n+1 and 2 square n. At the same time, the DRG, digital random gates, are clocked by this loop as well, because the two modules are connected on the back. So this creates random hits that stay related to the main motion. Altogether, this feedback system keeps the whole patch moving in a way that is always changing, but is still clearly coming from one shared single clock source. This is one of the many implementations of chaotic modulation, and could be also adapted to sources, to audio rate sources. But what is chaos? To answer this question, I need to go back to an interesting chat I had over a dinner with my friend Federico.
Hi there, I'm Federico from Jolin.
Where we were discussing about the differences between noises, random, and chaos. And during this discussion, we ended up talking about the Rob Hordijk G2 Manual. As Rob Hordijk explained in G2 Manual, noise is static, something you can process, filter, or shape. Randomness adds intention. It's about making choices, when a note will play, or how a control signal evolves over time. Even deciding to leave a random process alone, to not choose, is still a choice. Randomness then is decision making guided by the rules, creating variation that feels alive. Actually, randomness is strictly connected to rules and boundaries. Chaos instead is deterministic. So even the smallest change in starting condition can transform the entire outcome. This is the essence of the butterfly effect, where a tiny disturbance can ripple across a system and completely reshape its behavior. Chaotic systems have what are called attractors, temporary stable states that the system tends to fall into. In a chaos generator, these appear as short repeating patterns, until a subtle shift in a parameter pushes the system toward a new pattern. For composer and sound designers, actually modules like Source of Uncertainty, coolest name on earth for a module, which actually I was using because 149 from Dofer is based on that, can help a lot to inject some chaotic behavior inside your patches and inside your performances. And I think that this is the division line between canonic synthesizers and modular stuff. And I was talking with Federico also because his first module, Tabor, is a chaotic oscillator. I will link some of my videos about Tabor here. And I was really curious about his vision of this kind of instruments. And so this is a right moment to listen to his interview. Hi, can you introduce yourself?
I'm Federico, and I make musical stuff and instruments.
What kind of instruments are you making?
Mostly things that I cannot buy and that I need because I want those sounds. So those are the instruments that I want to make and I make.
Yeah. And what for you is an instrument?
An instrument for me is something that makes you want to play with it, and that you know that you cannot replicate those sounds in any other ways. An instrument is something that you can figure it out in your head how to make certain sounds because you're already thinking on how to play it. In the case of a Neurorack or synthesizer or modular thing, you're already thinking how to connect those things and predicting how they will sound. So that's what makes an instrument in my head. So even when I'm thinking about something that do not exist yet, I'm already thinking in blocks and how it will sound in my head. And then I'll try to make it happen.
So what's the path of creating new models for you? What's your journey from the prototype to the final product for the final instrument?
In my case, the idea starts from what I want to hear. So it's something that it's really inside my head. And then when it's becoming a thing, the worst word should be product, then I have to start thinking also about the people that are gonna play with it. So that it's not just me. And that initial idea must be adapted to a broader public. So the idea is something personal, something really needed, and then somehow it's being scraped and sculpted until it becomes something more useful to a broader public.
And why choosing Iraq? Is like a format you already know? Is something new? Was for you something new? You already own modules?
Because when I started, I was still studying, and I found some really good music made with Eurorack online on YouTube. There was this video of Christoph Beck playing, there is a composer playing a song, Rubberneckers, and it was using Eurorack instruments. So I was like, oh, cool. What are those things? And I started looking into it, and I found some really good kits, DIY kits, and started making them. So I found the format to be really versatile because there were so many things that you can do with that. But at some point I was like, yeah, but since I'm developing this idea, these noise things and devices, I want to play them together with those other instruments. And it took some years to adapt them to the format. And I think that still today it can be really useful in terms of compactness and versatility because you have so many things and ideas that can be packed in a small format and carry them with you to play with friends or to play in a venue or to play whatever. So you still have portability and a lot of things going on. So that's why Eurorack. And I like also the cables that are so colorful. So it's fun in that way, in that sense.
And your first model was a chaos oscillator. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because it's somehow a different start for an Iraq brand to start with something so complex. Can you talk us about that?
Can be strange because you're starting, so you need basic stuff to start doing things, no? But already in my head there was this idea that if you start with something complex and that has character, you can always remove things. So you can always add more blocks later to control it or to shape that sound. And that is, I discovered that is the most basic things that you can do in synthesis. So starting with a complex source noise and then shaping it with filters and stuff. And that came naturally since the beginning. The process of removing was more natural than adding. And I think that was my way since the beginning. And that's why even if I started with a chaotic source, everything that came later was adapted to it to shape its sound. So to remove something out of it or to adding the human controller and the human element so that you can have a direction where you want to go. You can drive that sound. You can drive that noise into the direction that you want it to be.
What is chaos for you?
Chaos to me is like when you ask a friend out for a pizza and he said instead, "Let's get married." So it's the completely chaotic nature of things. So when you turn a knob and you don't know what is gonna happen, so that is chaos. Instead, in most cases, we need something that is randomic.
Yeah, the next question is like something maybe personal, but why choosing that so hard career path? Because somehow modular is a niche, and both as a musician and as maybe a neo rock modules maker, it's like a step mountain to the top. Can you talk about a little bit on that?
I think that being a musician should be to me, of course, talking about the history that took me here, is the most important thing, because when you are a musician, you don't think a lot about money or selling, or I don't know. It's not the goal. If it happens, it's the best things, of course, but you can choose other careers that will give you money way before and with even less effort, can be. But if you're a musician, you know that the best things for you is playing and making those sounds. So having an idea that then translates into music. So that's why with this career, I reached a point where I can create my own sounds in a different way that interest me. Of course, there are other peoples that are interested in making sounds with their laptops or with other things, and that's totally fine and super cool because they are happy to do that, and I'm happy to do things with these instruments. So I want to make my own things. I want to make my own stuff. So starting from ideas and nothing and create those instruments. So I think that wanting to play and the desire of making something for you and you, it's the thing, is the most important thing.
Can I ask you the last question? Is why are you wearing sunglasses? Okay. To wrap this up, I want to leave you with my final thoughts. Unlike in fixed architecture synthesizer, where variation is usually predefined, modular systems let you work directly with this behavior. Small changes in routing, scaling, or feedback can completely alter the outcome, while still remaining internally coherent. That's the key difference between randomness and chaos here. The system keeps a sense of continuity, even when it becomes unpredictable. The main idea I want to leave you with is that chaos in modular synthesis is not something that just happens. It's something you decide to use. In Hordijk, chaotic behavior isn't a side effect or an imperfection. It's a compositional choice. You choose where to introduce instability. What interests me most is that this approach shifts the role of the musician. You're not only designing sound, but setting condition and then listening to how system responds over time. Chaos becomes a tool to create a movement, a tension, a long-term evolution, not just variation. Used intentionally, chaotic elements help distinguish modular synthesis from more static or repeatable instruments. So rather than going to eliminate chaos, Eurorack give you the possibility to explore it, and that choice, more than the modules themselves, is what really defines the modular approach. Thank you for watching. You will find links in the description to additional resources, including the full patch diagram, the Jolin website, and the Hordijk G2 Manual. See you next time.